Let's just jump right into this explainer, because today we're unpacking a really fascinating mystery. Why do we consistently self-sabotage and abandon our carefully crafted plans the absolute second real money is on the line? Look, if you've ever found yourself staring at a screen, just watching your trading account drain away while completely ignoring the strategy you spent weeks developing, well, you are definitely not alone. Actually, you're experiencing a biological phenomenon millions of years in the making. So today, we're going to break down the primal forces that literally hijack your decision-making and figure out how to fundamentally rewire your approach to the markets. Seriously, think about it. You're sitting at the trading desk, you've done your research, you know your edge, and you are ready to go. But why does your highly educated, rational brain just vanish the moment the bell rings and capital starts moving? The thrill hits, right? You think, man, we could really make some money here. And in a split second, your disciplined mind is shoved straight into the passenger seat. Right before the chaos starts, pretty much every rational trader has the exact same internal monologue. Intellectually, you know perfectly well that sticking to your process is what extracts more capital out of the markets than you give back. So you tell yourself, just follow the rules, follow the process, and I'll be okay. But why is that little voice so easily drowned out? Why does it always feel like you're fighting this uphill battle against your own hands on the keyboard? Well, the market moves, the adrenaline hits, and at that exact moment, your logical thought is suddenly overpowered by something much older and, frankly, infinitely stronger. Your rational mind doesn't just quietly step aside here. It gets aggressively hijacked. See, we're not dealing with a lack of intelligence. We're dealing with a hostile biological takeover by a part of your brain that literally couldn't care less about your trading strategy. Our modern market struggles actually stem from an ancient, primitive brain built to fight off saber-toothed tigers. Just look at our evolutionary timeline. You've got a mammalian brain that's been developing for 120 million years. Then, human adaptation, engineered over 6 to 8 million years for strict survival in a brutally dangerous world. And now, present day, we take all of that intense evolutionary survival wiring and just sit it in front of a glowing monitor at a modern trading desk. It is a massive biological mismatch. To really understand this mismatch, you have to meet the alpha. This is the incredibly successful evolutionary identity that kept our ancestors alive under totally dismal odds. In a hostile world where big predators literally wanted to eat us, survival wasn't about being the smartest guy in the room, it was about being the most adaptive and the most fiercely competitive. We evolved this spirit that believed we could win against all odds because, well, we had to believe that, or we'd just freeze and die. The alpha is hardwired to assert control and force things to happen. So in that dangerous ancient world, refusing to lose was a highly successful survival strategy because losing literally meant death. There was no, hey, I'll try again tomorrow if a bear was chasing you. That is permanently wired into our being. When you're threatened, the alpha steps in to fight. And here's the kicker. Your primitive brain doesn't actually know the difference between a physical threat in the jungle and a financial threat on a screen. To your brain, a losing trade feels exactly like a predator sinking its fangs into you. You can actually watch this psychological collapse happen step by step as the alpha gets antsy. First, you set up, execute the plan perfectly, and get a win. The juices start flowing. But the second step is where the real danger lies. The market goes quiet. The alpha has to wait and wait. But remember, the alpha is built to make things happen. So inevitably, you get bored, check another chart, spot the mere illusion of an opportunity, and force a trade that isn't in your plan, just to assert some control. Then, the trade goes against you. Instantly, that ancient fear of death kicks in. And finally, instead of just cutting your losses, the alpha fights back to the bitter end, hoping against hope, and completely blows up the account. It's a really tragic irony, honestly. The aggressive, competitive drive that makes us so successful in everyday life is the exact same thing destroying our net worth in trading. In the traditional business world, if you're an alpha, you seize the day. You push hard, make calls, force deals to close, outwork the competition, and boom, you're rewarded with success and status. But the market doesn't care how hard you push. It cannot be bullied. When you try to apply traditional business aggression to the trading desk, it produces catastrophic failure. And that brings us to the core conflict. It's the forced control of the survival world, going head-to-head with the patient detachment required in the trading world. On one side, your biological competitive drive is absolutely screaming at you to make things happen, to view losing as literal death, and to tie your self-worth to the outcome. But the other side shows what the market actually demands:
a probability-based mindset. You have to wait patiently. You have to accept that losing is just math, and you have to completely detach your ego from the trade. You're basically asking a 120-million-year-old brain to drop its survival tactics and suddenly become a cold, calculating statistician.
To actually make this transition, you have to completely redefine what winning means in this new arena, taking your ego entirely out of the equation. In survival mode, or even traditional business, winning is conquering. But in trading, winning isn't about dominating the market. Winning is simply landing on the right side of probability over a series of trades. It's just executing a process that has a proven edge, while staying completely emotionally detached.
And equally important, we've got to redefine losing. By redefining a loss as just a mathematical probability, you're teaching your primitive brain to stop equating a bad trade with a predator attack. Look at it this way. If you flip a coin and it lands on tails when you called heads, you don't feel like your life is in danger, right? You just landed on the wrong side of the probability. When you can train your brain to view a trading loss the exact same way as just the cost of doing business within your edge, that fear of death disappears, and the alpha finally stops fighting the market.
So here's the ultimate realization. Trading is not about forcing the market to bend to your will. You have zero control over what the market does next. Literally none. The only thing you actually control is the psychological state you bring to the performance. Once you stop trying to manage the market and start managing the mind that trades the market, the whole game changes.
Okay, so how do we actually rewire a 100-million-year-old mind for the modern challenge of consistent profitability? First up, you have to build discipline to maintain order when the chaos starts. Second, cultivate intense patience. You have to sit on your hands and wait to see what the market gives you rather than trying to force it. Third, practice impartiality so you can think clearly without getting a head full of money and adrenaline. And finally, and this might be the most crucial one, detach your self-worth from your performances. Your worth as a human being has absolutely nothing to do with whether a trade is green or red. Your primitive mind did a truly fantastic job keeping your ancestors alive, but it will absolutely bankrupt you at the trading desk if you let it drive. So, the very next time you feel that urge to jump into a trade just out of boredom, or you catch yourself fighting a loss because your ego is bruised, ask yourself this. Are you letting the ancient alpha trade for survival, or have you trained your mind to trade the probabilities? Honestly, the answer to that question is exactly what determines your long-term success. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I will see you next time.